All right, so for social studies today, we're going to do something that we have done similar before. It's one of those CSI investigations, like we did with Julius Caesar to figure out who killed him. We also did it with King Tut, right? With King Tut to see how King Tut died. So I am about to explain it to you. If you guys would stop talking and let me say my words, please. Stop cutting me off. Let me finish my sentences. Okay. When you go over to Google Classroom, you should have a new assignment posted called Shakespeare CSI. Okay, so down under social studies, Shakespeare CSI, go ahead and get that opened up, please. There is Google Slides and, well, I guess there's two Google Slides. First, open up the one that has the student investigation part on it, because the second part is where you're going to type up what you think happened at the end, okay? So we're starting with the first one, the CSI investigation. It looks like this. Take about 1 minute and get it opened up, please.
I think William Shakespeare did exist. Because he doesn't have a real one.
Because I assigned it to 5 of you guys a little bit differently. Yeah. A couple of your guys is going to look slightly different, so just do the ones that are given to you.
I think William Shakespeare did exist.
I don't really know what this one is about, so we're going to read through it together, figure out some new things. So, go ahead and get that opened up, please. I see a couple of you guys on it. Maudie. Can she hear me? So, we're going to get going here. It looks like a lot of you guys have it pretty much opened up. We are starting with the one that says, a CSI investigation. Did William Shakespeare exist? And we're going to read about William Shakespeare. Answer some questions on each slide. This is kind of like one of those ones, again, where it's your own opinions, right? Where we'll read through it and it'll be, do you think this? Or what do you think happened here? So it's a lot of speculation and suspicion about what you guys think might be. So it's not like I can give you guys exact answers on some of these, right? Does that make sense? So let's go ahead and get zoomed in and we'll get started. Um, 50 is not really far enough in.
Can I walk?
Oh, you need it, huh? Don't you? Sorry, Jada. I forgot to print one for Jada. She forgot her computer today. All right, one sec. There we go. Okay, Jada, you can go grab it off of the printer over there. I'll get you the other one when we start the next part, okay? Okay, so we are going to start with, did William Shakespeare exist? On slide 1. Okay, the noises, the talking needs to stop. I'm about ready to take recess away tomorrow or pull us from the kickball tournament. That's an option too. So, stop talking. Pay attention, please. Our overview. William Shakespeare was born on April 26, 1564. He has widely been recognized as one of the greatest authors, poets, and playwrights the world has ever seen. Writing 39 plays and over 150 sonnets, a sonnet is a type of poem, Shakespeare's legacy is second to none. But is what we know of this man accurate? Could a commoner, the son of a glove maker, write the plays that dazzled the royal court? This CSI investigation will have you examine the argument against William Shakespeare, and in the end, we'll have you answer the question, did William Shakespeare exist? I guess we'll find out. Let's go to slide number 2 and start reading through this. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. It looks like we can go to 50 on this part. Is 50 too far out?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys do have it in front of you as well, so keep that in mind. I'm going to leave it at 50. So slide number 2, was Shakespeare even capable of such work? So was he capable of writing all of these different plays and poems and things? It says, one reason that some think William Shakespeare never existed is that he may have been incapable or not capable of the work that he was said to have produced. William Shakespeare's personal life has often been a mystery, and many theorize that this is a reason for secrecy. First and foremost, Shakespeare, or Shakespeare, as is often found in historical documents, was a commoner with very simple roots. Well, what's a commoner, first of all? What does it mean to be a commoner back in the Middle Ages? A peasant. You're not royalty, you're not a knight, you're not a lord, you're just one of the people that lives in the city. Do you think that commoners had much education? No. Do you think they had very much resources at all to like food, water, any of that stuff? Not super awesome resources in general. So this is kind of one of the reasons that they think that maybe he couldn't have written all these things, right? He might not have been educated. So while this by itself does not raise red flags, it is the substance of Shakespeare's work that does. Nearly all of Shakespeare's 39 plays provide extensive knowledge of the royal court, aristocratic life, philosophy, and law. So all things that are higher class that he wasn't supposed to be part of, right? Shakespeare also wrote about distant foreign lands. How would he have been able to write so accurately about these topics? Only an aristocrat could have produced such work. Second, Shakespeare's own literacy may not have been very high. What does literacy mean? It's on the right as well. The yellow box. What does literacy mean? The ability to read and write. If his literacy is not very high, that means that he probably was not very good at reading or writing. If you're not very good at reading or writing, do you think you're going to be able to write 39 plays and hundreds of poems that are still used throughout the world? Now you have some doubts? All right. So let's keep going. It has been documented that William's father was unable to read or write, and his own daughter Judith could only manage writing an X on her marriage certificate. While this does not necessarily mean that William was incapable of being one of the world's greatest writers, it certainly does not bode well in his favor. William's literacy was likely similar to his father's, especially considering that William's own daughter had not mastered these basic skills. So we don't know about William Shakespeare's personal skills about literacy, right? But we know that his dad could not read or write, and Shakespeare's daughter was not very good at reading or writing. So does it seem, if you follow that trend, that he would be able to read or write very well?
What if he tried to like teach his father?
If he could he?
Was he alive? No, I think he's fake.
So the next part. Finally, I honestly don't know the answer. Finally, only a small handful of examples exist of Shakespeare's handwriting. 6 nearly illegible signatures. Illegible means that they cannot be read very well. It's not written well. It looks like maybe a kindergartner's handwriting, right? It's illegible. You can't read it very much at all. Each one looks distinctly different than the last one, and it is important to note that each of these signatures does not relate to his work in the theater. 3 are found on his will, 2 were on property documents, and the last one was on a sworn statement given to the local authorities. So what do you think? Wouldn't a legendary playwright such as William Shakespeare have a more noticeable and more frequent signature? So the question here is, based on this evidence, is it possible that William Shakespeare was incapable of the high quality works that are associated with his name? So basically, do you think that he could have written these things based on this piece of evidence right here? Yes or no? And tell me why. Could he have written these plays? Yeah, but you still need to give me a reason why. I still need the why. I don't need complete sentences. I just need answers on these, okay? So could he have written these plays? Yes, no, or maybe. And then tell me why you think this. So give your opinion. I'll give you about 2 minutes on this one. This is one of our graded assignments. So if you just go along as we're going through this, we're going to do each box kind of together. I'll guide you through it. So you just need to make sure you're following along and typing things down as we go. So anything that might be on your desk distracting you, put it to the side so you can follow along with this assignment. Keep in mind, everything is due on Thursday, so if you don't have it done, it stays a 0. So if you're just following along, it'll go pretty nice for you today. Good. So, on that bottom box, could he have written these plays and why? Huh?
At one point, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
That happens twice a day. Oh, the year. I thought you meant the time. I was like, that happens twice a day. What are you talking about?
I thought you meant what the year.
That's what he did mean.
Oh.
Okay. One more minute, and then we'll look at slide number 3. All right. Let's look at our next slide. Slide number 3. Okay, come on, man. Here we go. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this one so that it's always hot in here.
My brain cells.
So these are all of the different signatures that we just read about. These are the 6 signatures that they have from William Shakespeare. The first one is from a court case. So he had to sign something that was a legal document. It looks like this number 1. A legal document. No, legal. L-E, legal. Not a legal document. Not illegal, a legal document. Okay? It's a document that had to be signed. Yeah. Number 2 says this is a small signature from a document regarding property in Blackfriars. So he signed property. It's supposed to say William Shakespeare. Does it look anything like the first one? No. The third one is a signature from a Number 3 is a signature from a mortgage document, so another piece of property. So they signed it about property. Does it look like any of the other ones? No. Or a W for William. It looks like an M, but I bet you he was trying to write a W. No. Number 4. This is a signature from his will. So it looks like that. Number 5 is another signature from his will, and so is number 6 from the will. So you can see that he's trying to write his name, but do they look similar at all? No. So that's what people are pointing to as him not being very good at reading or writing, because he couldn't even write his own signature the same each time, right? So it says in the boxes, here are 6 different signatures that are believed to have been signed by the author and the poet named William Shakespeare. In the first box to the left, it says, in what ways are the signatures similar? The middle box is, in what ways are the signatures different? And in the last box, what kind of conclusion can you maybe draw based off of these signatures? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a few minutes. In the first box, what is similar? In the second box. Okay. In the second box, what's different? And then in the third box, what conclusions can you get from this? Okay, so I will leave that there and let you guys work on that for a few minutes. So tell me what's similar, different, and what sort of conclusion can you draw from this? Okay.
That's on my handwriting. Looks like I'm ready with that.
No, in fact, they're pretty different. Yep, what's similar about the signatures?
I don't know. Trying to write down that.
As long as it's really just something.
Well,
So, is it the same on everything else? Christian, were you gonna take your backpack when we got through? So, can you say something about that? What's similar about them?
Wait a minute.
You're talking about
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
definitely lots of similar.
Determination. What are we trying to do? I think people will reach on determination. Thanks, I had to take that. Wait, now that's a.
You have 2 more minutes. What's the same? What's different? What conclusion can you draw?
Something.
Okay. Stay focused. Write down a couple ideas there.
My brain cells. I'm thinking of too much Skyrim.
He did exist, but he wasn't who everyone thought he was. Okay, that's a good theory.
A real person, but he had someone write things for him.
Okay, so maybe he talked to them, spoke them, and then someone else wrote them down.
Did he know how to talk?
I'm sure he knew how to talk, yes.
Are you sure?
No, I didn't.
He was not slobbering the words out?
I didn't know him, but I'm pretty sure he could talk.
I never know if he can talk.
We don't. Okay, about 1 more minute to finish up this slide, and we will move on to the next one. Yep, okay. Alrighty. Let's go look at slide number 4. This one has a lot of information, but not a lot of, or no questions. We're going to read through it, and then we'll answer questions on the next one. So, slide number 4 on the side. So it says, was William Shakespeare just a pseudonym? What's a pseudonym? It says it in that yellow box on the right. What is?
Shakespeare's name, especially once used by an author.
Good. It's basically a fake name. So a lot of authors actually use fake names when they write. I don't really know what the reason is. I'm trying to think of like a famous one that does that. Dr. Seuss, yeah. Thank you. Perfect. So Dr. Seuss isn't his real name. His real name is something else that I don't know. I think it's like Theodore something. I don't know what it is exactly. But Dr. Seuss is not his real name. But when we think about who wrote the books, Dr. Seuss is who we think of. We don't think of his real actual name, right? So people are saying, was William Shakespeare just a fake name and somebody else wrote all of these but used a fake name? So it says, let's assume that William Shakespeare was never capable. Okay, hold on. Hello. Does Olivia need to finish? Okay, sounds awesome. Thanks. Bye. All right, Olivia, you can go finish up your thing really quick. So it says, let's assume that William Shakespeare was never capable of creating the collection of work associated with his name. Then, who was behind the name of one of the world's greatest authors, poets, and playwrights? This is a very persuasive theory that the name William Shakespeare was a pseudonym or a fake name used by a different author. But who is this mystery author? All signs point to one of these three being the bard. Good. A bard is a professional poet employed by rich people. Yeah, rich people, basically. So it's either Sir Francis Bacon, Christopher Marlowe, or Edward de Vere. Those are the three people that they think that might be William Shakespeare. They wrote under the fake name William Shakespeare. Let's read about Christopher Marlowe first on the left. Let's read it first. Okay, so Christopher Marlowe is often pointed to by conspiracy theorists as the true William Shakespeare. A brilliant playwright and poet, Marlowe was known for his famous work Tamburlaine the Great and Jew of Malta. But does he have the credentials to be William Shakespeare? Certainly. Modern computers have compared the works of both men and what they found was astonishing. Word patterns and their usages were discovered to be nearly identical between Marlowe and Shakespeare. Even more compelling is the story of Marlowe's death. In 1593, there was a warrant issued for Christopher for the crime of heresy. Marlowe was believed to be an atheist, so he was going against the church. When a government friend supposedly helped him fake his death in a bar fight and escape the country. Marlowe fled to Italy, where his poems and plays became very popular, but to keep his identity a secret, he had to create the pseudonym William Shakespeare. Others believe that Shakespeare did exist, but that he penned Marlowe's work in England to keep his identity a secret. Shakespeare's plays continued to appear for another 21 years until 1614, frequently mocking monarchs, criticizing their leadership, and questioning their policies. So they think that this guy could have been William Shakespeare. Like maybe he used a fake name after he had to fake his own death, right? That would be kind of cool. That's a good conspiracy theory too. I like that. I love a good conspiracy theory. The next one, Sir Francis Bacon over on the right. It says, Sir Francis Bacon was a philosopher, scientist, and poet. He was the definition of a Renaissance man. Bacon was one of the most educated men in England during his lifetime, which provided him the skills necessary to write with the complexity found in Shakespearean work. Bacon was also a world traveler and frequent visitor to the royal courts. Two more clues that lead us to believe that he was behind the name, aka William Shakespeare. However, just because he was well educated and had seen the far corners of the world does not directly link Bacon to Shakespeare. The most convincing evidence is what is found within the pages of Bacon's notebook called Promuse. This book contained almost 2,000 sayings and phrases that Bacon thought were important. And guess what? There were many similarities between these sayings and several of the works that are attributed to William Shakespeare. So there's a couple of similarities here. So he was really well traveled, so he was able to go see all the royal things and all of that stuff that supposedly the real commoner William Shakespeare would not have been able to see. Bacon, yeah. And then Bacon also had this notebook that had like tons of things that were similarities between his writing and William Shakespeare's writing. So that could be another theory that Sir Francis Bacon is actually William Shakespeare.
I know one way you could try to William Shakespeare's face. You just find someone with like the same handwriting that looks identical or mine, they match.
Maybe they did that. Maybe that comes up later in the thing. We'll get there. The last one, Edward de Vere. He is the 17th Earl of Oxford. He was a well-recognized poet and playwright who lived during the mid to late 16th century. The compelling evidence in favor of de Vere being William Shakespeare has even led to its own theory called the Oxfordian theory. Writings in early plays and letters by de Vere contain many words and phrases that closely resemble those of Shakespeare. More persuasive is that de Vere would have had an extensive knowledge of the works of literature and prominent royal figures that Shakespeare so often wrote about. The Earl's father-in-law served as in a position under the Queen and was even portrayed in Hamlet, which is one of Shakespeare's works. 2, the Earl of Oxford was a very respected poet and author, which made it easy for his Shakespearean works to reach the public. Lastly, many of De Vere's interests are prominent features in a variety of Shakespeare's works. For example, many of William's plays take place in Italy and show a fondness for music and even sports, such as tennis. And guess what? The Earl visited Italy a variety of times, even building a home there, and he was an avid lover of music and tennis.
I don't think it's him.
You don't think it's him?
No.
My personal favorite out of those 3 is Christopher Marlowe. Yeah. I think that he might have done it. You think it might be bacon? I had bacon yesterday. It was really good. Okay, let's look at slide number 5 and answer some. Let's look at slide number 5 and answer some questions. There wasn't a question at the bottom. Ours looks a little different than yours. You might have some slides deleted. Yeah. I'll explain it in a second. So
That's how mine looks like too.
some of your guys' looks a little bit different. Some slides have been deleted for some of you guys. So just hold tight until we get to the slide that you are on. So this next one, this slide number 5 says, what is a pseudonym and how does it apply in this case? So answer that. What is a pseudonym and why does it matter in terms of William Shakespeare? Slide number 4 up at the top. In one of the yellow boxes, it talks about what a pseudonym is. Yeah. Okay, so what is a pseudonym and how does it apply in this case?
Can I say it is a fake name? It's anonymous.
Yeah.
What is anonymous?
Anonymous means that you don't know who it is. Yeah, your Secret Santa is anonymous. Yeah. It's an interesting. Surprised you thought of that one so quick. Most people don't think of Secret Santa as like anonymous. Most anonymous things are used a lot of time with the law, and like if someone's gonna give a tip for like, hey, I think that this is the person that killed the president, they would be anonymous so that people don't come after them for tattling, basically. I did not kill a president, though.
Why do you stop at I did and then say not?
Because I did not do it. The president is alive, so I don't know where you're going with this. Yeah. And no president has been assassinated while I have been alive, so I can't have assassinated any president.
When was the last one that happened?
The last president that got assassinated? I want to say it was FDR. Oh, that's what I meant, not FDR. Yeah. Who was the... Yeah.
What?
Presidents assassinated. John F. Kennedy would be the last one. There's a lot of...
Ronald Reagan was like a couple, like, not even an inch away from the... When did he die?
Yeah. Kennedy, 65? 64. Wait.
Yeah, and then Ronald Reagan.
63.
When was he shot?
In Dallas, Texas. Okay, this is really off topic. Okay, we can talk about presidential assassinations later.
But it is
Yeah.
an investigation.
Okay, there's a lot of conspiracy theories behind the assassination of what is his name?
Ronald Reagan?
No, he wasn't.
Donald Trump.
John F. Kennedy, thank you.
JFK?
Donald Trump wasn't assassinated, he's alive. Assassinated means that you were killed.
Yeah, like,
Okay, anyway, number 2 on that page. What is the argument that Sir Francis Bacon was the real author? So what are the ideas that they think that he might have been William Shakespeare? Name two things. So two reasons why people think he is. Go back to the reading and read through it. So there's 2 reasons why people think he was Shakespeare. Yes, so go back and reread it if you have to.
Was he sick of bacon and just died of bacon? Loving bacon.
Okay, so I'll give you about 2 minutes on this one. 2 reasons why people think that he was Shakespeare.
Yeah, I was shaking his ear.
Be working, please. Still lots of talking when there shouldn't be.
It sounds weird when you say, because when you say somebody's lesbian because they were white, they. I read his last name is Bacon because that's why Gallon thinks he's Shakespeare.
I hope so.
Oh, we're not still why don't they just say the great side of them?
I don't know. Sometimes people just don't make things easy for people.
You think Bacon was rich? How long was he gone for?
3 minutes?
You think Bacon was rich?
Probably he was a knight, Sir Francis Bacon. Probably had some money, yeah.
When does it start?
Later today. We will talk about it when we're done with social studies. We got things to finish. Okay. The next one, if you're done with why they think that Sir Francis Bacon is Shakespeare, then you need to do the same thing and talk about why people think that Christopher Marlowe was Shakespeare. I don't know. As long as you have 2 reasons, they can be in the same sentence, yeah. Not all bullet wounds are fatal. Not all bullet wounds are fatal. That's what you said, right? No. Right. Okay, you guys are all talking at once. Again, this is not going to go well if all of you guys talk. Alani, what were you saying? I have, yes. That's about the assassination, or kind of. It's a really good show, yeah. That one? What'd you say? It is. I like my old chair better, but I'm bringing that one to Ohio, so. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this one was a gift for the classroom, not just for me. But the chair that I had here before was already mine that I bought, kind of. I mean, I didn't buy it. I got it. Did you really just say you didn't think I could buy things? You think I don't want to talk about it. I got it from Miss Havercorn, who was a teacher, a 5th grade teacher a few years ago. Charlie. Poet.
I was gonna say I never used to buy chairs to the school.
The teachers can. It's my classroom. I could buy whatever I want for it. They do. I had that chair originally. That's a crappy chair. Yeah. No. Nice try though. Next slide. The next part. Okay, well, the number 4, you're doing the same thing about what's the argument that Edward de Vere was the author. So you're doing 2 reasons for each of the 3 people. And then on the bottom box, who do you think is most likely Shakespeare out of those 3? So I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes just to finish up this slide, answering all of the questions on this slide. Sound good? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, a couple of them, yeah.
I don't know. Usually it gets broken up before there has to be a winner. As far as I know, yeah.
Last year, another Canada, but it was something else I didn't like it.
The math one?
Yeah, I didn't like it at all.
Whose class were you in last year? She does. She pressure. Yes, I could see it. She's stern. She's nice, but she wants things done. Yes. Okay, about 3 more minutes to finish up this slide. Yoshi, Bradford, are you doing the slide or are you guys just talking? That's what I thought. Do the slide.
I don't know what to tell you. It sounds more than Bucky than something like movie.
I think we're gonna win.
Yeah. I think we're not gonna win because I don't have faith.
No, we can't win. Well, then just miss that deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do right now tomorrow.
Let's jump.
Huh.
We go watch.
That's one I want to watch, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll.
Yeah, I think I
F-A-K-E.
TV and play
Mhm. It's a video game. What they're talking about.
Huh? No, again? I forget.
It's like a medieval times game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun though. But I hope I hope it doesn't like. I hope it plays because there was a ring, half of a ring on it.
Also, it's like knights and stuff, and there's like weird, like fancy characters.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have a ton of time left, so we are going to move on to the next one. So we are on the slide that says at the top, did William Shakespeare even exist at all? That is the slide we are on. I do believe that some of you guys have this one. Everybody should have this one. So I'm going to read it, and we are going to answer the question. So it says, there was an Elizabethan actor named William Shakespeare, or Shakespeare, but there is no record of an Elizabethan playwright named William Shakespeare. So let's assume that William Shakespeare, the actor, also wrote plays. Well, there is no evidence that this William Shakespeare was a writer. No original drafts of the plays exist. No letters written from Shakespeare ever exist, and only 6 nearly illegible signatures are left to his name. Both of his parents, his wife, and his children were illiterate, which means they could not read or write. The fact that no records exist of Shakespeare attending a place of higher education makes it almost impossible that this man also wrote some of the most eloquent works of literature to appear on earth. If Shakespeare did double as a playwright and take the name Shakespeare, he would have been the first writer of his credentials who both had illiterate children and did not attend formal schooling. So far there is a dude in like the record of the world, right? From that time period named William Shakespeare. That's not Shakespeare, right?
They probably were looking through files and stuff.
I'm sure they did. To be a historian, to figure out old, like ancient things, you go through a lot of old documents and it takes a long time to do things like that. So there is this guy who was an actor, William Shakespeare, but does that necessarily mean that he wrote plays too? No, and they talk about how he had children who were illiterate. They could not read or write. So wouldn't you assume that if you as an adult could read or write that you would teach your children how to read and write? You would think so, right? So there's some inconsistencies there. Back up at the top, it says, William Shakespeare's will is over 4 pages long and has no mention of him being a writer. No books, plays, poems, or unfinished works are ever mentioned. This is interesting since writing the things that Shakespeare did, would have required the use of hundreds of books of considerable value. These items most certainly would have been included in a will, since at the time many people would have wanted to get their hands on these books. The icing on the cake goes back to Shakespeare's lack of schooling. The writer known as Shakespeare had excellent knowledge of not only English, but Latin, Greek, Italian, and many other languages. His command of many languages led to thousands of new words being invented. There is simply no way that Shakespeare, surrounded by illiterate people, lacking in education, and without a record of ever leaving England, could have done such work. So, based on the evidence we just talked about on this page, is it possible that William Shakespeare was William Shakespeare? So you need to tell me yes or no, and why. Yes or no, and why. I'll give you about 2 minutes. Give me your answer, yes or no, and tell me why you think that he is or is not that person. Okay, about 30 more seconds, and then we're going to look at our next page. Alrighty, ready for the next part? Okay. Slide number 7. This one might be a little bit different than the one that some of you guys have. So if you don't have this one, just wait for the next one. So this top one, I can't talk anymore. This one, the top says, how would you expect the death of this great writer to be treated? So if he was the greatest writer of the time, how would you expect him to be treated when he died? Good, right? Like a king, right? He wrote all these cool things. So let's read through this one. Let's assume that there was a William Shakespeare who wrote these breathtaking works of literature, or that it was William Shakespeare, the illiterate actor. Assume that he did write all 39 of the plays attributed to him. Also, pretend that, even though it's unlikely, he was one of the world's greatest writers despite having illiterate parents and raising illiterate children. Now, if he was truly this remarkable, how do you think his death would have been handled? Would you expect to find his writings of the what would you expect to find in writings of the time? Would you expect a lot of fanfare for this man? Well, when Shakespeare reportedly died on April 23rd, 1616, there was little mention or attention paid to it. Notable Elizabethan writers of the time did not mention the death of Shakespeare, which seems odd since they would have highly respected this man. No public mourning took place, even in Shakespeare's hometown of Stratford upon Avon. There were no eulogies, no poems, and no tears shed. Mark Twain, author of a 1909 article titled, Is Shakespeare Dead?, makes a great point when he says, does that mean that in Stratford he was not regarded as a celebrity of any kind? His death made no more stir in England than the death of any other forgotten actor would have made. So what do you think? Would you have expected more of a public reaction in response to the death of this historic author? But then again, nothing about this seems unusual if Shakespeare was just the common man that many people assume him to have been. So, the first question is, what's your reaction to this information, just in general? What is your reaction to this information about people not really knowing about his death? Alani? I mean, I'm sure his family cared, but like you would think that more than just his family would care if he wrote all these amazing plays and people were acting out his plays all the time on stage and stuff. So you'd think that people would care and want to celebrate his life, but it wasn't really celebrated, right? So it says, what is your reaction to this information first? And the second one says, assume that Shakespeare did write 39 plays and his death was handled this way. What might explain it? So what might explain why his death wasn't a huge event, right? Yeah. So your reaction, and then explain why his death wasn't a huge event. Hmm?
That's
Tell me what. What'd you write down? Yeah.
People might not have really cared at the time.
Okay, I'm gonna read that now.
Yeah, go quickly
I
down.
think what could have happened was that as he got older, people started reading his plays more, and they just got bored of it. So they didn't. Because like Back to the
People
Future.
still love his plays though.
That Back to the Future. Have you seen those?
Yep.
Like they didn't really like his music because like it wasn't out yet. Like now his stuff is out.
You make a good point. There are a lot of things that we find hundreds of years later that we're all of a sudden like, wow, this is amazing. And then we're like, wow, this person wasn't respected when they were alive. Someone like, was it Leonardo da Vinci that cut off his ear?
Oh, they ate his ear.
They did not eat any of anything. Not what I said. There was a famous painter that nowadays his work is everywhere. You have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a piece of his art nowadays. But when he was alive, he couldn't even get one of his pieces of paintings to sell at all. Like nobody appreciated his art when he was alive. And then I don't remember exactly who it was, but he ended up dying really, really young. And then they found all of his art later, years and years after he died, and it is in museums. You have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to even own it. It's people love his art now, but it wasn't appreciated when he was alive. So maybe that's the reaction to Shakespeare too. Yeah.
That one guy, that like played the piano.
Mozart.
Beethoven.
Beethoven.
Yeah.
Both of them died young, and their work was not appreciated at the time. Yeah. Good. Things like that. All right, let's read our last slide, and then I will let you guys work on the little paragraph you guys need to write after this. I know. So, at the top, it says, what have other people thought about Shakespeare's legacy? So there's a couple of quotes from people. The first one on the top left is by Charles Dickens, who is a famous author. But you're also not Charles Dickens. Close. It is a great comfort to my way of thinking that so little is known concerning the poet. The life of Shakespeare is a fine mystery, and I tremble every day lest something should turn up. In the middle, Mark Twain. So far as anybody actually knows and can prove, Shakespeare of Stratford-on-Avon never wrote a play in his life. So far as anybody knows and can prove, he never wrote a letter to anybody in his life. And so far as no one knows, he received only one letter during his life. The top right, Henry James. I am haunted by the conviction that the divine William is the biggest and most successful fraud ever practiced on a patient world. And bottom left, okay. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell says, I've never thought that the man of Stratford-on-Avon wrote the plays of Shakespeare, so this guy doesn't think that William Shakespeare wrote these. I know of no admissible evidence that he ever left England or was educated in the normal sense of the term. One must wonder, for example, how he could have written The Merchant of Venice. So this Supreme Court justice does not believe that it was William Shakespeare, the author or the actor that couldn't write, right? And then on the very far right, Charlie Chaplin. You have a very common name, dude. In the work of the greatest geniuses, humble beginnings will reveal themselves somewhere, but one cannot trace the slightest sign of them in Shakespeare. Whoever wrote Shakespeare had an aristocratic attitude. So people are just really baffled by Shakespeare in general. So out of these 5 quotes, it says, so on the left, which person seems most doubtful that Shakespeare was real? So who does not believe he was real? Okay, and then on the right, it says, which person seems to believe the most that Shakespeare was real? Not how. Who? Sorry, I wrote the wrong word. Who? Read them then. Yeah. There's 5 quotes. Who believes he was real? So 2 questions there. Which of the 5 people believes that he was not real? And which of the 5 people believes that he was real? And then explain your answer, please. I'm going to give you 3 minutes on this one. Yeah, I'll give you guys a couple of minutes on this one.
I think he was real or not?
Not real.
They got 8 out of 9 done.
Oh, yeah, we have to do the writing too.
Mark Twain sounds like a famous singer. Because there's another singer named Shania Twain. Maybe they're related.
Alrighty. Mark Twain and Shania Twain are not related. Mark Twain lived a long time ago. Shania Twain is still alive today.
Yeah, but it could be possible because, like, you could name her,
Maybe like a great-great-granddaughter or something.
what's it called?
Ancestor.
Yeah.
Okay, so those of you that are finished with the slides on this one, the only other thing that you need to do is open up the Google slide that has the prompt on it. This one, if we zoom in, says, those who support the theory that Shakespeare was a real person and was an eloquent poet and playwright are called the Stratfordians. Based on your research and investigation, write a letter to the Stratfordian Society explaining your opinion about the existence of William Shakespeare. So there's questions here for you to answer. Do you think he ever existed and his name was simply a pseudonym? Do you think he was a real person but someone else is responsible for his impressive work? Or do you think he defied the odds and became one of the greatest writers ever, even though he couldn't write that we know about? No matter what you feel about William Shakespeare, your letter must do the 3 following things. Take a stand. Do you think he was real or not? Explain your thoughts. Make it clear why you think that. And then back it up. Use some evidence from the other set of Google Slides to back up your reasonings. So let's do 2 paragraphs here. All of the questions.
How many are there?
3.
Okay.
2 paragraphs at least. To answer the question, do you think William Shakespeare is real? There's some ideas up at the top for you to follow, and make sure that you answer those couple of questions.
Because it says what is your take on his legacy, which is paragraph 3, and there's 3 of them. On paragraph 2, it says, do you think he never existed and his name is the
If you need to write more than 2 paragraphs, go for it. Write as many paragraphs as you need to explain it.
No, I mean, like, do I do the second paragraph question or the third one?
Both. It's kind of all of it together.
So you said 3 understanding, so 6?
Sure. Alrighty. I'm going to stop the recording at least and let you guys just be working on that. Those of you that are online, as long as you know that you need to finish